So let's see if it pops up now.
I saw the new terms of use that they sent out where people with less than 1,000 and all that, they can have ads on their content.
Really?
Yeah, dude.
Interesting.
There are a lot of people.
Damn it.
Actually, Metal Sucks did an entire article about how that's going to screw over smaller bands who are putting their stuff out there, and YouTube's going to monetize them. So
there we are.
Go Google.
So let's see if it pops up. Yep. All right.
There we
cool.
go.
What's up, guys?
Yo.
So they should be seeing us, and
finally.
I'm gonna monitor comments on the phone because I'm not gonna want to mess around on the screen.
That's what I was setting up the same thing.
You guys show in the comments, dude.
All right, and hey guys, can you all hear us?
Hopefully can. Are we audible?
Give us the signs. Yay, nay.
Mark, what
hey
is
guys, we got if you guys can hear us, we got Mark Pearson, we got Jake Waddleton, Adam Montano, Anibal Riveros, Georgie Kenkevishvili, Dave Edmonds, Larry Scruggs, Daniel Corey,
Adam, what's up, man?
Adam Renfro. Got a couple Adams, huh?
Yep.
Yeah, cool. What's up, everyone? Robert Duel in the chat. Weird.
Yeah, what is going on?
Meta as hell.
I was going to say, I'm here too.
All right, loud and clear. Beautiful.
Nice.
All right.
Okay. So
said it right. Thanks, man. Okay, no worries. All right, cool. Well, since everyone can hear us, I think I now pass it over to someone else.
Indeed. So, long days and pleasant nights, fellow travelers along the path of the beam. I am known on this level of the tower as Jaime and Fuego, and I have some special guests.
I'm Cecil Laird.
Robert Duel.
Hells Yizzle, and we are here for a little bit of palaver on Hail to Stephen King. We are finishing up the live tier list with the collections of shorter Cy King stories. So basically we are going to be talking about the 4 novella collections, which would include 4 Past Midnight, different seasons, most recently If It Bleeds, stuff like that, and also the collections of the much shorter stuff, which Just After Sunset, Bazaar of Bad Dreams, which is our book of the month here, and obviously Night Shift. So we're going to get to all of them, and Cecil is going to be assisting me in the technical process, but yeah, I'm excited for us to finally, just get this this turn of the wheel, so to speak, finished up, and then move on to other awesome things. But have you guys read any specific Cy King?
Audio is very quiet.
Oh, do we need to move the microphone closer, or?
Hang on, I can try and fix that. Give me a sec. Give me a sec. Audio is very low. Is anyone else having low audio? Shouldn't be that low. Is your mic on? Oh no, that's not good. Really? That's not what I was hearing.
Read any specific Cy King?
Talking. You guys can't hear that?
Do we need to move the microphone closer?
Hang on, I can try and fix that.
Okay.
Give me a sec. Yeah.
I mean, it's a little quiet.
Is anyone else
it's not
having
like
low
blaring,
audio?
but
yeah. I mean, I'll try and turn the mic up a little bit, but
Right,
yeah,
so
you guys
that's
sound
the
good to me.
Turn my headphones up.
Yeah, I mean, I'll try and blast it a little bit more. Give me just a sec.
Read any now, so are we adding this?
Oh, sorry, I'm going to hear a little doubling.
Do we need to move the microphone closer?
Hang on, I can try
now, so
and
in comparison, were we adding these to the previous list with all the other books?
No, this is its own separate thing.
Completely separate. Okay, all right.
Why did you want me to put it on that same timeline and everything?
I kind of thought that's what we were doing.
What?
But,
you saw that I posted the thumbnail for it a long time ago. How could you assume that was the case?
I just thought we were adding the books to all the previous books, but
I mean, I can. I mean, I tell you what I can do.
If it's a big deal,
I can just do it in post-production, and I'll just pop it up at the very end of this episode. I'll show where they are in the ranks, or you know what?
You don't necessarily have to, man. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I could do it. It would just take me a few minutes to set that up for everyone.
No, it's all right. That's all right.
So hang on, I'm adjusting the sound. Headset. No. Come on. Give me a sound.
But in the meantime, as far as Cy King short selections, whether it's novellas or short stories, are there any that you've read, Robert, that pop out as being like favorites, ones you think are super badass?
Oh, they were right. It actually
not
was
any
set.
that I've read in.
It was set about half of what it should have been.
I think the older ones would probably be from Like Night Shift, things like that.
Night Shift has the most iconic adaptations because sometimes they come back, which we put up our review of yesterday. Children of the Corn, stuff like that. Those are all from
the
Night
most
Shift.
recent but oldest of what I've read and everything.
Everyone just got to watch me do that, so that's fine. Sadly, I don't have any embarrassing. I don't have any embarrassing favorites folders or anything I have to worry about. That's funny.
Okay, Adam Montano says audio is good. All right.
Yeah, I just jacked up the volume. It was at 43. I jacked it up to 75, which is where it should be. But sometimes those levels are a little hot on the program we record, so that should be a lot better for you guys. Much clearer. Okay, cool.
Okay, awesome. So, yes, once again, everybody, we are going to be going through the collections of stories as opposed to full-on novels that Cy King has done, and this is going to end that turn of the wheel of all of this tier list stuff. And we start out with...
Actually, wait. Before you start, I'm going to say that this is a good idea that we're doing this because you never know. This might be a viewer's first look into the Stephen King tier list ranking, and you don't want to have ruined all 5 of the previous episodes.
True. You know, and so
that's how I defend myself. Sorry, go ahead.
And in that regard, this can exist separately because King has said that it's a much different challenge trying to write a short story compared with like big, lengthy novel, which so many people say he can't stick the landing. I contend that with his short stories, more often than not, he goes like the EC Comics, like Twilight Zone sort of route, where he has like a very concise, effed up sort of approach, and I like that. It's almost a little more mean-spirited, and when horror is like that, I kind of tend to prefer it. So Night Shift really being the first collection of his short stories, most of these written before he actually became a big household name. Night Shift has classic after classic after classic. I mean, we already mentioned Children of the Corn. We mentioned the Manglers in this. Sometimes They Come Back is in this. There's only a short handful, because I'm going to bring them all up as we go through everything. Jerusalem's Lot, which is kind of a prequel to Salem's Lot, just showing some of the nasty history of that particular area of Maine. Night Surf, which is a little prelude to The Stand, which is really good. I mean, there's just hit after hit after hit here. I Am the Doorway is a personal favorite. Battleground and Trucks, which was adapted into the
it was a graphic novel.
Maximum Overdrive. Not so much.
Didn't they put that in Rage?
Well, that's a different story.
Oh, it was?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. That's the one that was written with Joe Hill and stuff. Right. But man, this has so much just A-list and beyond sort of stuff that if there's any short story collection that is going to be S tier, man, it is most definitely this one. As far as iconic adaptations, I mean, One for the Road is on here as well, which is a sort of like epilogue to Salem's Lot, and we just talked about it recently, but I still contend this is his best collection of short stories, and so many of them were written when he was still young and hungry and hadn't achieved all of that fame. And so for that reason, I think it is his absolute best collection of shorter stories.
Wow, his very first one you think is the best ever?
Most def. I mean, there's one much later that kind of contends with it, but this one, I mean, once again, Children of the Corn, the Lawnmower Man, Sometimes They Come Back, Trucks, which was Maximum Overdrive, Gray Matter, the Boogeyman, the Mangler, Graveyard Shift, Jerusalem's Lot.
Those are all strong.
This has legit some of his most iconic storytelling in the short form. So,
guys, the advantage of this being live is that you can chime in. Where do you rank it?
So
Fuego's giving his rank. Where do you guys rank it yourselves? Throw your ranking, S, A, B, C, D, or F. Throw your rankings in the chat as Fuego gears up for the next one.
Yes. And the next one is where I'm going to get a little bit more controversial, actually.
Ooh.
Yeah. Now, Different Seasons is legit the most beloved collection of novellas that King has ever put together, and that's because of the fact that The Body was adapted into Stand By Me, and the fact that Shawshank Redemption, Rita Hayworth, all that stuff, those are two of his most beloved works as far as adaptations go, and the films that they kind of generated. I feel like both of those films, done by Rob Reiner and Frank Darabont respectively, are actually better than King's source material. Most notably Rita Hayworth and The Shawshank Redemption, because of the fact that that is a story that's less than 100 pages, and the near 2.5 hour movie, I feel like, is better.
See, this is like the times where it's like, yeah, like the movies are better than the adaptations because you flesh out the story and the characters a lot more.
Yeah,
I definitely,
yeah, with short stories, they can get away with that sometimes.
Yeah, because with the larger form Psy King storytelling, you have to condense and you have to omit stuff, and that pisses people off who are like, oh man, I love that particular beat of the book, whatever. When you can expand upon things, that's most definitely where things. Well, sometimes they improve. It doesn't always happen. But in this regard, this collection also has Apt Pupil, which is a Bryan Singer film that I think is tremendously underrated. It's got a great performance from Ian McKellen. Rest in peace, Brad Renfro as the kid. The story itself is a little more effed up in the book because he goes on like a shooting spree at the end. And then we also have The Breathing Method that Scott Derrickson, if I'm not mistaken, has been trying to make into a movie for a while. It's about a woman who has her head cut off, and that she's in labor in a taxi when she's beheaded, and she continues going through the process of having a child. It's the only supernatural story in this. And
I love that. Hang on, wait. Before you get to your ranking, I think what might be fun is as you describe a book from this point going forward, guys. Go ahead and throw your rankings for different seasons. I see a couple people.
A lot of people
most people were saying S and A for the last one, and now some people are saying S class for both, because I think it'd be fun. They'll throw their rankings for the book in as you describe it going forward, and then we'll see how your ranking stacks up. I won't tell you what they're saying until after you give your ranking. So for that
reason, I'm not going to
No, you don't look at comments. I will.
That's right. Right. Don't do it.
I'll do it. So, all right, continue. I don't know if you finished the book or not, but continue on with the story if you wanted.
I was right at the very end of it because this is a collection of novellas, so it's not super short story. Like, it's not quite a short story because it's a little longer, and it's definitely not novel length. And so for that reason, Breathing Method being the shortest, I think it's underrated. I like that one. But really, for me, in this one, it's because of the fact that the other two adaptations that are so beloved are better than the source material. I feel like a lot of people would put this as an S, but I leave it at an A for the sheer fact that I feel like it was elevated when it was adapted, and I feel like people, when they say this would be S level, they put it a little bit higher because of their affinity for the adaptations.
I can see that.
I think that's a fair argument. Yeah. So we'll see. As I've seen it so far, a lot of people have been saying this is S also, but I think. Yeah. I think now, having given your reasoning, let's see if they agree with you or not.
It's like A- for me. It's still so just...
A- even? Well, just above a B.
Well, I mean...
that's what an A- is. I'm sorry. It's just above a B. Daniel Corey says S all day long.
That's what everybody would presumably say.
Larry Scruggs says S for different seasons as well.
Yeah, I knew I was going to be coming in...
S tier for me, Jake Waddleton.
I knew I was going to be coming in with a hot take on this with saying A. And I was comfortable with that.
I appreciate that. That's not that hot a take. You're one tier off.
It's barely below, and I'm still kind of getting acquainted with the fact that S is even above. Like S is A+, essentially.
No, S. Look, this is Mario Kart rules.
Okay.
There's A class and then there's S class. People even asked in our last tier ranking, what does S mean? I still don't have a clear answer.
I don't either, which is why I'm inquiring about.
But look, some tier list rankings have SS. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I'm not getting that far into it. Like, I know S tier because Mario Kart, when I did really good, I got an S instead of an A. So
I was about to say, I don't fuck with the SS, man, because
I think S stands for...
that's got some nasty connotations.
Yeah, no kidding, right? Oh, the Secret Service level. What? No, different kind
That's
of
SS.
What I'm the other one, dude. I know what you're talking about, yeah. Look, we don't need to draw that much attention to it, but
especially three white guys sitting here talking about
it. Well, look, they're both not super great at this point, but nonetheless.
The other one's never been great, so.
Yeah.
All right, so everyone is saying S, no question. So this is a hot take.
I knew that I was going to be in the minority in this because of the fact that I feel like those two terrific adaptations were better than the source material. I really, really do. And
Daniel Corey says nothing wrong with an A, so he's forgiving.
It is most definitely A, man. I mean, I'm not going to relegate this to anything below that.
So that leads us to...
Yes, Skeleton Crew. Which, there's a lot of hot takes on this that I've seen as well because of the fact that the second Psy King short story collection, and yet this is one after his fame had been achieved. Carrie had come out. Some of the stories I think were still when he was in college, but the primary predominance of them were after he was like getting up there and people loved the shit out of him and stuff. And so I don't love this one as much as a lot of other people do. I've seen some people put this above Night Shift, but I mean, granted, The Mist is its own separate sort of thing. It's the only novella in this collection. It's the longest of all the stories, and like The Mist is most definitely S for me, 100%. But a lot of other stuff is lower level, as I will definitely say. Like The Monkey isn't very good. The Jaunt is terrific, though. The Jaunt is S. This is where, you know, you start kind of, I don't know, pulling hairs as far as like also The Wedding Gig, you know, which was one of the first instances of King getting into talking these like mobster sort of stories and stuff like that. Although a short film that I have actually, I think I talked to you about this a few months ago, but Stephen King has this program called Dollar Babies, where he allows you to option a film for a $1. And the final story in this is one that I have always wanted to make into a short film. It's called The Reach. It's about this very, very just close to the point of death elderly Maine woman who has never left the island that she grew up on. She's never left it ever once. Like everything, you know, came to her and, you know, she was able to go to shops or whatever, but she never went onto the mainland. And she starts walking over this frozen reach of water and sees her husband and all these different loved ones. And it could be done very cheaply, you know, because it's really just her seeing younger versions of all of these beloved people, and it's heartbreaking and it's sad, and it's her kind of crossing over and dying, and it's a beautiful story. So for that reason, even though I don't like everything in this collection, and I would probably like rank it more so a B, the fact that The Mist is here, the fact that The Reach is here, Grandma's really good. A lot of people are saying
The Jaunt is really great too.
The Jaunt is one of his best science fiction stories, and The Jaunt is most definitely S. This is an A for me. Right. This is most definitely an A. His next two short story collections waned in quality in my estimation, but there is so much S-level stuff that kind of, I guess it you know, makes up for the less compelling installments that we have here. That yeah, this is most definitely A for me, and some may even consider it an S.
That's a lot of people were saying A for this one.
Yeah,
because most people are saying a couple of the stories are S tier, but there are some weak ones too. So they came down on A with you. So.
Yeah. Also, I have to say, Paranoid Chant is one of the strangest things that Cy King has ever put together. It's a weird poem about this guy who, that, you know, he thinks he's like hearing stuff in his walls, and, you know, everybody's after him, and I mean, paranoia personified. It's very strange. But there's also goofy stuff like Word Processor of the Gods, and Beach World is actually one that I would like to see adapted. It's about these guys who crash land on this planet that is basically like a desert planet, almost like Dune-esque, and it has still never been adapted into anything, I would presume, because of the fact that, you know, budgetary constraints and whatnot.
Later, Daniel.
But would you like to see a short film of The Reach? If you guys are any fans of that, I would love to do it. Unfortunately, it would have to be in cold climate, which we don't have here in Arizona, so that would be that would be tough. Maybe
cold climate. I mean,
you
need snow and stuff. Yeah. All right. So, moving on to.
I love 4 Past Midnight.
All right.
Okay, so this was essentially Cy King's sequel of sorts to the 4 novella collection that was Different Seasons. Now, this one had more emphasis on the supernatural. You had a couple stuff that has not been adapted, like The Library Policeman, and you also had The Sundog, and I mean, man, The Sundog is one that I especially enjoy because it's basically about this kid who buys this weird Polaroid, and as opposed to actually taking photos and seeing what he's shooting, there is just a shot of a dog next to a fence that is getting closer and closer and closer with every shot that he takes. It's really disturbing and gets messed up. And
at what point do you say stop taking pictures?
That's, well, I mean, curiosity killed the dog in this variety, I suppose. But yeah, man, the other two have been adapted though. The Langoliers, which was adapted very poorly, unfortunately, as an ABC miniseries, and then very well adapted, in my estimation, was Secret Window, Secret Garden, which was done with Johnny Depp.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's one of the...
Secret Window was a good movie.
Yeah, I think that's one of the stronger 90s Cy King adaptations, and this one doesn't get the love that I think it deserves, especially for the sheer fact that Langoliers adaptation sucked, and the fact that 2 of the 4 stories actually haven't even been made into something yet. So for that reason, as much as I love it, I know that it doesn't get the esteem that I feel like it deserves, but I feel like all 4 of these stories are very strong. They are on par with different seasons, but it's still more like a B+ than an A- sort of situation.
Oh.
And I'd love the Library Policeman. This is one where I could waver between an A and a B because all 4 stories are so strong. It's not
where
like
do you have it land?
Yeah, it's not like in different seasons where the breathing method is just weird and very, condensed in its own thing. I guess I have to go B, even though I'm really just tempted to go a little bit higher with that one. I guess it's going to stick as a B+. It's going to stay in that criteria.
So some people are saying B, some people are saying A. One person
I could even
said,
see some people saying
S,
C for this
one
one.
person said C.
Yeah.
You're all Maddie Jorison just said I'd go C. I only like the first half of the Library Policeman and the Sundog.
Yeah.
Solid King cameo in the movie, says Larry Scruggs.
Mm-hmm.
But he said gotta go B on this. Jake Waddleton says I'd go B. Still really freaking good though. Austin Bunnell says we can't forget King's cameo on the Langoliers. Oh, that's what he was talking about. Okay, yeah. So but Dave Edmonds say A, easy for me, potential S. And then Adam Montano said S tier, nothing else to say.
Yeah.
Said,
That's like a mic drop sort of situation.
Unparalleled for me. Wow.
Yeah, and that's the thing. In some ways, I like stories like the Sundog. And
Dude,
even
the
the Library
Sundog has
Policeman.
been aped a lot of times. Like there's a story that's actually
This goes all the way back to 1990 that he wrote this.
There's a story that was made that is about God, what was it? A pair of glasses that a girl puts on, and she sees a little girl like getting closer and closer, or something like that. I can't remember where I heard this from, but it gets closer and closer and closer every time she puts on the glasses or takes a picture or something. And right as it's about to get her, like, she gives it to someone else, like a little girl, and the little girl puts the glasses on, and then the little girl dies. And so, like, it's, like, so messed up. But
it's
that
a
sounds,
trope at this point.
Yeah, it's what it sounds like, the Sundog, because if you're taking pictures and the thing's getting closer, if there's basically one shot left between me, I'd be like, hey, yo, take a picture with this camera, Ron.
Yeah, right.
And it's also,
oh my God, he got killed by a dog. Does that mean I get a whole new round of
chloroform?
pictures?
Oh,
Like,
how could you be so heartless?
I know. Sorry.
No, but
Funny.
I mean, also different Polaroid
back
short
and
stories
haunt
of
your
terror and shit like that. I mean, you've got most recently that Polaroid film, and then there was also Say Cheese and Die, the Goosebumps book that I always think back about, where you take a photo of somebody and they die. So it's not quite the same thing, but at least within that similar realm of reason and stuff. So
there's a similar X-Files episode, last minute Ringu switcheroo. Okay, so Fuego, let's move on to... now, this is one... The funny thing about this one is one that I remember, like, having a humongous push at the bookstore that I went to. So, at this point, it was Brentano's at the Fashion Square Mall.
Okay.
For any local Arizona people, you'll know that. But Brentano's was right there on the entrance, and the Nightmares and Dreamscape, there was lines for it. I think it was the first time I registered. People were lining up for a horror author. Because what year was this one?
I want to say 92?
Yeah, see, I would have been...
excuse me, 93, September 29th.
Yeah,
so
that's exactly what I would have been in
birthday,
Brentano's, trying to scope the Playboys when I wasn't supposed to be. You know what I mean?
That's right, they did sell those there.
They did indeed.
And now it's just, I mean...
Ages showing.
Yeah, porn...
What, because bookstores?
Pornhub's available for everyone now.
You're not wrong. Anyway, please continue.
So this is the most bloated and, unfortunately, in my estimation, boring of Cy King's collections of short stories. There are still a few gems. There's always going to be gems in there. But this, despite the fact that it was also adapted very loosely, a few of the stories in this into that TNT series, Nightmares and Dreamscapes, which I've reviewed on here, I'm not the biggest fan of this one or the next collection of short stories that we will be talking about. I ugh. It's one. It's legitimately one that just aggravates me because of the fact that stuff like Dolan's Cadillac is not very compelling to me. Stuff with the little children. There's still good stuff. Like, the Night Flyer is great. Popsy is great.
Ooh.
But yet, Chattery Teeth is Stoops, man. The Moving Finger is boring. Also, Home Delivery.
Just pierced Austin's heart.
Yeah. But once again, art is very subjective, as I always say. But this has, Crouch End and the 10 O'Clock People, which are two of my favorite ever Stephen King short stories. But then you've also got stuff like where the nanny or maid or whatever she is like licking up the jizz of the author that she loves. So there's weird stuff in this. And then also I didn't really like Psyching's take on Sherlock Holmes. I thought it was just okay. And then Umney's Last Case being another one in that this is definitely one of those situations where there is far more mediocre to boring stories than there are. I'm trying to remember if okay, they got a hell of a band. That's another good one. But there's just so much going on in this. 24 stories total, and I would say a good 60 to 70% of them are just not that compelling. I don't know. I love the cover. I'll definitely give it that, and the fact that he's got the Castle Rock thing going on, in front of him. This was also when King was swearing he was going to not do any more Castle Rock stories, and then of course he later on did. I can't go as low as a D on this, but maybe. Man, it's the only one where I think I would veer close to that C minus D plus sort of situation. But the fact that I love the 10 O'Clock People so much, the fact that I love Crouch End so much, it's going to be a C.
Okay.
So,
all right.
How wrong am I, everybody?
Mostly
everyone was in the CD range.
Yeah. I mean,
there was one person that said higher because the Austin said it was higher.
Because the finger, I think, was his.
Because the finger was the first thing he read when he was 10.
Yeah. And yet, when you have that initial, response and stuff, but
Anibal, you're breaking my heart, Fuego.
Yeah. Sorry, Right Number is another one that I'm just like, I feel like it worked better as. Rainy season with the raining like frogs or whatever the hell it was. There's just I don't know, man. This one just did not work for me. I feel like this was a time in King's life where he was attempting to stop using cocaine and drinking and all that different stuff. Most of these were written when he was trying to get sober, and so for that reason, very much like a lot of his early 90s work, he's kind of trying to find his footing and figure out how to be creative without those sort of fuels,
basically
so to
learning
speak.
how to walk again.
In some ways, yeah, I must admit. So that's where we're at for Nightmares and Dreamscapes, everybody. But there are still a few awesome tales in there that you should give some consideration for.
That leads us to now. This got a film adaptation, right?
It did. The film
Hopkins, right?
Yep. Anthony Hopkins and also Anton Yelchin.
Oh yeah.
Rest peacefully.
He was super young.
He was Bobby Garfield. Yeah, unfortunately. This is one that so the film adaptation only covers 2 of the stories in this. Just to give some clarification. But all 5 of the stories, if I recall correctly, I think there's 5. They all kind of intertwine and kind of precede the timeline, so to speak. And so. This is one of King's favorite works. This is one that entails a lot of connections with his childhood, connections with Vietnam, protest movements that were going on around that same time. They've been trying to adapt the second story, which is actually called Hearts, where all these kids who are freshmen in college, they get excited and addicted to playing Hearts, the card game. They've been trying to do that for a while. Man, this one is pretty tremendous. It's not quite S tier. It's got tower connections though. That's the biggest thing. If you've actually read it, there's Lowmen. Yeah. You've got Brodigan who shows up later. You've got the Lowmen who are after him. That's what might push it from a B up to an A for me. I mean, King actually starts this out with that quote from the what is it, Easy Rider? We blew it. It's like we were a generation that was going to change the world, and we didn't do it as profoundly as we had thought we were going to. And, also the fact that Brodigan shows up in 7, Dark Tower. Yeah, I gotta probably push this up to an A, because this is one of those, nostalgia sessions for King, in the fact that he is most definitely looking back at his childhood. and the fact that it ties in so profoundly with so much of his other work. I mean, you've got the Blind Willy story, which is about this veteran who basically goes out and acts like he's this blind guy and he's panhandling in New York City, and then he puts on his like business suit and goes to his home in the Hamptons and shit, and it's like kind of funny in that regard. But
it's funny because there's really dickheads like that.
There's lots of them. I always think about the spot in what is it? Don't Be a Menace. To
Oh
South
yeah,
Central, where the black dude's panhandling, and then he like puts on the suit.
He's
got his like badass dreadlocks, and he gets in his nice car and stuff. But
that was a snappy fucking suit. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, agreed, man. But yeah, Hearts in Atlantis. It's so much more than that terrific film adaptation that Castle Rock Entertainment did. Castle Rock Entertainment being Rob Reiner's company that he founded after making Stand By Me. They did so many different adaptations of Cy King's work, whether Misery, which we're reviewing next week here on the channel, Dreamcatcher, which I'm a little less fond of, but, Stand By Me, so many others, obviously, and, you have so much more to explore with the Gerber baby specifically. So Bobby Garfield's love interest, you follow her through college and through some interactions with Randall Flagg, and just getting crazy, like, I'm trying to think. There was some protester bombing sort of shit that was going down in the 70s, and it was where people were taking Vietnam protests to an insane extreme, and she gets herself kind of tangled up in some of that, and it's really compelling if you like her character and seeing how she grows up and what she becomes. So
the audience is a little all over the place on this one. At first, it was mostly B, C, and D, but then a couple people come in towards the end here with A. Larry Scruggs says, I'm leaning towards A.
Yeah. I mean, it's A, B for me.
Well, Larry retracted. He came back with a B.
Oh, I'll stick with B, though. Oh, okay. All right. Adam Renfro says B. Jake Waddleton says personally a C.
Yeah.
But that's
it's
because
I
like the Tower Connections.
Yeah.
And then Dave Edmonds says Hearts in Atlantis D. Saved by Low Men in Yellow Coats, which is an S novella.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is most definitely one of those situations where it's not horror, like, at all. And it's very much King getting nostalgic.
Adam says, I don't even know what to rate this one, honestly.
Well, truth be told, man, I mean, this is most definitely one that King calls back to a lot, along with Lacey's story, because of the fact that there is so much of his personal upbringing and experiences, connected to it.
Well, this is the interesting thing about this, I gotta say, is doing a tier list ranking of short story collections, because the stories inside can range so widely.
Yeah,
people really have to focus in and average out those stories in their mind to get their ranking. I think that's fun.
Yeah. And also there is so much that hasn't been adapted from these stories, and that just kind of their own thing. I mean, everybody knows Low Men in Yellow Coats, and then obviously the final story where Bobby comes back for the funeral and stuff like that. But everything else is it's only vaguely connected sort of situation. So.
All right, which brings us to Everything's Eventual.
And unfortunately, this is very much in the same vein for me as Nightmares and Dreamscapes, in the fact that there are not as many memorable stories in this that I think were...
It's a cool cover.
Oh, it's a very cool cover, and that's actually tying in with where this guy is basically going through a divorce, and he's sitting at a lunch with his soon-to-be ex-wife, and then like this crazy like shootout sort of situation goes down in it, and a lot more grounded stories in this. You've got Autopsy Room 4, which is about this guy who basically he's acting like he's a corpse in this autopsy room because he's trying to escape. The Man in the Black Suit, though, is really exceptional. It's basically about this young kid who's out fishing, and he sees basically death or some equivalent, a demon or whatever, that basically strolls up and has this nasty conversation with him. Could it be a Randall Flagg? I don't know. It's up for debate, but this is just one that, once again, aside from the Little Sisters of Euluria, which is a terrific young Roland Dark Tower story that is in this, and then also Everything's Eventual being the title story, that's one that actually ties in with Tower stuff. You've got Tommy in there who reappears, and I'm trying to like segue back to his name for God's sake, because Dinky, that's right.
They're commenting on the king in the middle. They're like, is that picture of king in the middle creeping anyone else out? Jake says, so unsettling. But for sure, he stole my soul a long time ago.
Indeed. So lunch at the Gotham Cafe is what you actually see there on the cover of the story there. But there's also stuff like that feeling you can only say what is in French.
1408's in this one?
1408 is in this one, which is actually...
That's an S-tier story for me.
That's an S-tier story. And so it's stuff like that will actually push this
I actually read
maybe
that one.
a little bit higher.
That's one of the few stories I wanted to read.
Nice.
And I quite like the story actually even better than the movie, although I like the ending of the movie better.
Well, there's multiple endings to that movie. I mean,
I like the theatrical one, the essentially the super mega happy ending. But but the conversation in the actual story between the guy and the hotel guy is so much cooler in the actual story, in my opinion. Anyway, sorry.
No, you're fine.
I finally had something to chime in on.
Yeah, so we're so glad you did, man. But yeah, as far as like stories in here that are personally beloved, it's really Man in the Black Suit, Little Sisters. Even Everything's Eventual about, Dinky being, recruited and, like, kind of using the push on people. He becomes a crucial character, along with Brodigan in the Seventh Dark Tower story, but aside from that, his story's not that compelling. He's the geeky nerd who can't get girls and stuff like that. I was there once many years ago. I don't recall it profoundly. But aside from that, 1408, man... riding the bullet, riding the bullet. Riding the Bullet's very mediocre. Lucky Quarter. About the guys who are fighting over money and stuff like that. This is one that there are less stories that I love comparatively. So I guess I am going to throw this down. It's going to chill with Nightmares and Dreamscapes at a C because of the fact that there is less good than, disappointing. So...
All right.
Yeah, I don't think
on this one,
I don't think anything's going to end on a D or an F, to be fair. But
most people are saying B. Someone said D. Not a fan of this book. Someone said C. Yeah.
King didn't really find his footing until post-accident, in my estimation. That's when his writing really ramped back up. The 90s, while having some interesting installments and stuff like that, it was after he, stared down death, basically, that I feel like his writing got more compelling, and this being released in 2002, most of it was stuff that he wrote pre-accident that was collected. It was published in, Playboy and, the ebook, Riding the Bullet, USA Weekend, stuff like that. So it's where he was still kind of trying to find his newer voice, I guess. So...
Alex Herndon asked, hey Fuego, you think the ending of Little Sisters is related to the ending of Revival?
Not deliberately. I mean, if we're gonna go spoilers and stuff, the fact that you have another love of Roland's life that's also mentioned in the Fifth Dark Tower book, not making it, I don't see as much of a correlation there. Maybe get into some specifics, but
right.
Yeah.
No, I asked, you answered. Okay, so let's move on then, Fuego.
Indeed, shall we?
Just After Sunset. Hit it.
This is one that I love, and a lot of people don't. This is very much, in my estimation, this is King being reactionary to stuff that had gone on in the world. So a lot of these stories were written post 9/11, and a few of them actually factor directly into that. Like, there is one where a guy who has that survivor's guilt, who was supposed to be in the towers that particular day, he didn't go, and he's being haunted by, ghosts of those who actually died in it. So that is really awesome. Another one that I recommend all the time, and if not for the fact that it's been dollar baby like a mofo so much, I would want to make Willa into a short story because of the fact that it's one of the most romantic things that, in my estimation, Cy King has ever written, because it's about love transcending even death, and how the two spirits of people, having not completely passed on to whatever next level people theorize could be there, they end up he's just so just determined to find his wife, and he meets her in a bar, and you kind of realize the twist after a while. I guess I've kind of spoiled the amazingness of the twist, but it was originally published in Playboy in 2006, and it's much more sentimental than you would expect to see something that would be published in Playboy. Gingerbread Girl, so-so. I mean, that's another just woman being terrorized by a psychopath sort of thing. But this is just a collection of stories that, for me, is so of the post 9/11 time and just hits in the feels significantly. New York Times at special bargain rates being another one. I don't know. This is one that just hits me in very much. I hate to make South Park as a reference, but you know how when you watch a certain South Park episode like Ladder to Heaven and you remember specifically that just feeling here in America of just, people trying to come to terms with so much carnage and horror and things of that nature. South Park is one of those few shows that, for me, I can be transported back to the time, the place, the mindset of everything that they are sending up, that they're parodying, and just kind of chronicling in a way. And this feels very much to me like Cy King doing that. This is an A for me. I know that it probably won't be for most people. It is probably more like a B+ or an A- because you've got weird stories like A Tight Place where the guys are fighting over property and homie gets locked in the he gets locked in the porta potty, and the porta potty is tipped over and he's like trapped in all the shit and piss and nastiness. So you still have weird stuff like that from King in this, but I mean, as a whole, Graduation Afternoon being another one where these kids are about to graduate, and then the nuclear apocalypse happens and they see it, and they're up in like northern New York. They're up there in upstate, and they're rich kids, and they see New York City being nuked, and they're just awaiting, and they're just like, holy shit, the end is here. So stuff like that. I mean, there is a very on edge, like the end is coming soon sort of mentality to this collection of stories, and I love Just After Sunset. It's neck and neck with Skeleton Crew as my second favorite after Night Shift as far as his collection of shorts.
There's a few B's, but mostly I'm seeing A and S.
Oh, N is in this one too.
N is in this one. That's what a lot of people have been pointing out.
N is so goddamn good about the contagiousness of craziness.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
So there you go. He's kind of on the same page as you guys on that one as well. So
yeah, I would be tempted to put this one at an S, but I mean, there's just a couple goofy stories that, leave it back in the distance.
So here we go with Full Dark, No Stars.
Indeed. And this is another one that has lots of adaptations. It just celebrated its 10th anniversary. It's actually going to be our book of the month in December. So next month, that's one. I guess that's a spoiler, letting the cat out of the bag. But adaptations of 1922, which I believe you watched with me, the one with Thomas Jane, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, no, I actually never watched that one.
Oh, that one's terrific, man. Yeah, that's really, really good. And also, this one has an adaptation that a story that has sadly not been properly adapted just yet. It's called Fair Extension, and it's basically about this guy who is dying from terminal cancer. He arrives on a flight in Derry, and he sees this guy who could be a Randall Flagg of sorts or something else, but basically he's like, you can take your affliction and put it onto somebody else and gain an extension of life for X amount of years. I think it's like 5 or 10 years or something like that. So he ends up deciding to put it on his college best friend who stole his college sweetheart and all this other stuff. And so it's definitely one of those like morality quandary sort of situations. That's the only one from this that's not been adapted, though, because A Good Marriage was adapted into a film with Joan Allen. You also have Big Driver, which is very female centric, like fist up in the air, man, because of the fact that Maria Bello, who was in that, she's basically this successful writer who gets kidnapped and left for dead in this drain pipe by this nasty, murderous dude, and then she comes back to extract some revenge. This is one I feel like just gets lost in the shuffle compared to different seasons, and even to a lesser degree for Past Midnight. Have you guys seen any of those adaptations of A Good Marriage, Big Drive, or anything? 1922, which I absolutely love. It's almost got some... It's got some Lovecraft sort of vibes as far as like the insanity that starts to build after, killing a wife who is a super bee, and then basically Thomas Jane's son in the adaptation is overwrought with guilt, and he wants to go to the authorities, and just all of the problems that kind of come from that. But it's between B and A for me in this one, but I feel like since there were those great adaptations that were a little overlooked, it's definitely more of a B plus, at least in that regard. So it is gonna go into the B tier.
Slot it with 4 Past Midnight.
Yeah, exactly. And yet, Fair Extension, man, would be a great installment of like the Twilight Zone, the new version of it on CBS All Access, for instance. It wouldn't really warrant a feature in my estimation, but.
So some people are saying Adam Montano says B plus or A minus, like you. Jake Waddleton says got to go with an A.
It's very well written.
Larry Scruggs A on this one. Adam Renfro B for Full Dark. But Dave Edmonds said S. Big, lots of exclamation points. So yeah, little all over the place, but all mainly saying high end.
Yeah. This story, all 4 stories are very, very strong, and it's as I said, it doesn't get its proper appreciation because I feel like especially in 2017 when you had like 1922 come out, it got lost in the shuffle of it and some of the bigger properties or all of the.
It came out after Gerald's Game, didn't it?
It did, and also Gerald's Game was 2017. So both of those being Netflix films, both of them not actually getting a physical release, unfortunately. It's really weird how Netflix will put out certain series in a home release, but then others like Gerald's Game and 1922 don't get a physical thing that I would love to put on a shelf. So yeah,
that's true.
It is what it is. Yeah, because I have all those.
Gerald's
seasons.
Game was great. I would love to add that to my collection.
Yeah, man. Stranger Things. I mean, they put out those seasons, and oh well, it is what it is.
All right, so that leads us to the Bazaar of Bad Dreams
and the current book of the month. Oh. Yes. Yeah,
two short story collections in a row for 2 months.
Yeah. This came out.
Give people a break during the holidays.
Truly. But Full Dark being for longer stories that are almost novel length, and then this is reverting back to shorts, and so this has quite a few interesting entries. It's not as strong. It's not as strong as Just After Sunset or Night Shift.
S tier for sure for the last one. Sorry.
I'm sorry. No, you have to give it. That's why we wanted to do this live, because we wanted to actually, I mean, in the course of recording this, document all of your impressions and stuff. That this has some very awesome entries in it. Mile 81 is another killer car sort of situation. The Little Green God of Agony, about this guy who gets in a plane crash and he just barely survives, and he's essentially claiming to this woman he's helping with his rehab that he can't get over that hump and start walking again because there's this little green demon that's in him that's kind of hindering him. And so that's another great story. It was made into a motion comic on Stephen King's website. Which it was an ebook. It was one that King put on. Man, I'm trying to remember what the hell those little Amazon tablet readers are called. Kindles. Yeah. It was a story he released exclusively for that. It's got some tower tie-ins with Low Men and stuff, so that's pretty dope. Under the Weather is a super sad one. It's about just coming to terms with the fact that spouse in later years is about to die or maybe dead already. Really good. Blockade Billy, that's a shout out to Cemetery Dance. I always have to at least mention Blue and all of those peeps over there anytime. It was originally published as that, and then it got a more widely available release, which is good. That's about a dude who basically assumes the role of a baseball player who is not him, and he becomes this big sensation in this alternate world, but the person whose role he assumed he murdered. So that's another great one. And then Summer Thunder is one that I have to give a shout out to because of the fact that that's another end of the world sort of situation where it's basically about this guy, his dog, and this other older dude who lives near him that are waiting to die of radiation poisoning because everybody else in the vicinity is already dead, and they're like puking up their guts at various points, and it's just really gross, really sad. There's lots of weaker installments in this, like That Bus is Another World isn't very good. I'm not too big on Tommy or Mr. Yummy, but this is definitely one that's right around the Just After Sunset sort of situation, but it's not. Even the stories I love, they're not quite as good. So I'm going to go B with this.
Okay.
Because of the fact that it's most definitely, as far as collectively, its stories, in my opinion, are more engrossing and more enjoyable than, those two that you see chilling at the sea, which is Everything's Eventual and Nightmares and Dreamscapes. I do think that these more recent Psy King stories... Obits is another one that I didn't mention. That's almost like a... Oh man, what was the CBS show where the dude was getting the newspaper a day early?
Early edition.
Early edition, yeah. Obits is a similar
believe I
sort of
remember
situation where guy basically, if he writes an obituary about a particular person, they die in that fashion, like the next day. Obits is a terrific short story as well. This has a lot of really solid ones in it, man. It's always about the scales of better stories than worse stories. That's what tips it into a higher tier. So, Bazaar of Bad Dreams, which we will be talking about on December, what is the day? Because I want to, December 5th. That's going to be the next Stephen King Book of the Month live stream, and that's where we're going to be talking all about the Bazaar of Bad Dreams and all of those compelling tales in there. What's everybody saying, man?
They're on the same length as you, actually. There's they're B plus or A minus again. B for Bazaar, C potentially B for this one for me. So yeah, they're all on the same wavelength as you on this one.
Nice, man.
Which leads us to the final.
The finale.
And that's just about an hour's worth of broadcasting. That's almost perfect.
Indeed. And the most recent King release being If It Bleeds. Now, this is a little bit different in the fact that it's got one very lengthy novella, which is the, titled If It Bleeds, which is The Return of Holly Gibney. And I have some mixed feelings about this one because it's very retread of The Outsider in the fact that it's her minus Bill Hodges encountering another shape-shifting sort of person that's a little bit different than the one that she encountered in that series. We get more Jerome, we get more of his little sister, which is great, but that story is just way too boringly by the numbers for me. Another one which is in this collection, which is called Rat. It's about this struggling writer who is trying to write this Western novel. He goes just to utter isolation away from his wife and his couple kids and stuff, trying to get it finished, and he has this rat who comes and starts talking to him. Ben Stiller is apparently trying to write, direct, and star in an adaptation of this right now, which is a little strange to me. So both of those stories, they're okay. Mr. Hardigan's phone is another sort of trope that we've seen before, where a younger kid becomes very close with this older, grandfatherly type figure. So there are some, Brodigan, Barbie Garfield sort of, leanings in this. He basically convinces this older dude to buy an iPhone. And when this retired businessman realizes he can look at stocks in real time and all this different stuff, falls in love with the phone, kid proceeds to put the phone into his casket with him when he dies, and then starts getting phone calls from said dead friend of his. But it kind of drags, and it goes at least 20 to 30 pages longer than it should. Really, the awesomeness of this that is gonna kind of save it probably from being a D is The Life of Chuck. And The Life of Chuck is told from the perspective of this guy who was dying from brain cancer, and you have the first third of the story from everybody who is imaginarily living in his head, and it's like the end of the world, and it's told from their perspective, and they're like, okay, this disease is spreading, the stars are dying out, and Earth is about to die, and they're actually making that into a movie right now. David Fincher's production company is turning that into one. So that story is amazing, and then in turn you realize what is going on with Chuck after the fact. The story is kind of told in reverse, so it's like the internal death within his head, and then it goes to Chuck when he's 20-something businessman, and then back to when he's a teenager in high school and stuff. And so it's one of the best things King has written in a long time. Unfortunately, the other three stories are way too by the books, but Life of Chuck saves this one, in my estimation, from being probably a D, because I thought If It Bleeds was very much King going through the motions, but Chuck saves it.
As a C?
Yep, Chuck saves it as being a C, man, because of the fact that that short story is so damn good. And I mean, being in the midst of a pandemic and reading about people losing the internet and losing power and trying to meet up with loved ones and all this different stuff, Renee Hubbard is a really cool chick who's on the Hail to Stephen King Facebook group, and her and a lot of other people, I remember when this book first came out, were like, holy shit, this story got me anxious because it was exactly what we were experiencing here, in this day and age, in what has been 2019 with, number 19, as we've all ironically come come to experience. And yeah, it made me anxious too. I was unsettled. I was on edge listening to that first third of the book. And so, yeah.
So,
what is everybody saying about this?
Jake Waddleton says stuck between a B and an A. But a couple people also said C as well. B says Adam Renfro, and then D for If It Bleeds says Dave Edmonds. Adam Montano says not sure many people will agree, but this is S tier for me. Was so engrossed in the stories. Alex Herndon says I've been paranoid of elevators since I read this.
Yeah, that's from the If It Bleeds story. Yeah.
So yeah, looks like Jake Waddleton B+ then. So looks like I'm the only one going with S tier, says Adam. That's cool. Yeah, that's the nice thing about everything being subjective. But...
Exactly. Art being subjective, as we talk about on this channel and on Hail to Stephen King all the damn time, is that I mean, with this one, I'm especially intrigued at the fact that they basically optioned all 4 of these stories and what they could be visually. Brodigan could be interesting. The old guy gets an iPhone and working with the doohickey and stuff. But really, man, David Fincher trying to produce Life of Chuck is what intrigues me the most, because there's a very psychedelic, like within your head sort of situation that could be cool. And there's also lots of rumors that the If It Bleeds story with Holly seeing this other shifter could be a second season of The Outsider.
Someone actually brought that up in the comments.
It was canceled at HBO.
I thought they weren't doing a second season.
Well, King said on his personal Twitter that there are scripts and they have an idea, and then it got canceled at HBO, but they're apparently actively chopping it to other streaming services.
Well, I guess if the story's written well enough and King gets paid well enough, I don't think you'll have a problem.
Yeah, it's like Nosferatu, though, where they covered the entirety of the source material. So unless it's more Holly stuff, I personally prefer Holly on the Mr. Mercedes.
See, what's funny is
I
had this same conversation with you. It's like I didn't like the character of Holly at all until about maybe halfway, 3/4 through
the HBO show, or through reading
through the books. What was the second one?
Second one is my personal favorite, Finders Keepers.
Yeah, Finders Keepers. Yeah, it wasn't about halfway through that book, maybe 3/4, where I really started enjoying that character of Holly more.
Yeah, well, I mean, she doesn't even pop up until like halfway through the first book, right? I mean,
but even then, for like what we got of her in that, I don't know, she felt more of like an annoying character. Like she just felt too just thrown in there just because.
Yeah, I'm actually one of the few people who likes the AT&T Audience Network adaptation that's now on Peacock TV of Mr. Mercedes better than the source material. I
remember we were talking about that.
I concluded that, man. It's like, man, Brendan Gleeson as Bill Hodges, he's terrific. He's even better than King wrote him. And so once again, sometimes people can adapt King material just like Rob Reiner and Frank Darabont and even Mike Flanagan to a degree and make it better. I mean, brilliant minds can improve on great ideas sometimes. So,
all right.
Is there anything else? I mean, unless everybody's throwing,
they're all just talking back and forth. They're saying, a couple people are saying good ranking and stuff.
Yeah, Jake, I definitely agree. I would like a revival movie as well.
Well, the revival movie is happening. Mike Flanagan is behind it.
That's what Jake just found out, and he's super excited about it.
He's like,
you guys just made my day.
Yeah, that's the thing. Flanagan at this point,
fucking cool.
Yeah, he is the go-to for everything Cy King at this particular point, and he's risen the ranks as far as stardom goes.
I'm just more excited to see how, when we actually get the adaptation of Revival and the actual visuals finally for the ending.
Yeah,
that's what I want to see the most.
If they go for it, it's one of the bleakest endings that King has ever done. It's like that Pet Sematary.
But that's the nice thing though too. It's like if you can still keep the relatively of the movie a semi low budget, but still being good, and keep majority of it for that final ending.
Yeah, which it's not till the end. I mean,
that's
enslaved ants. Let's just put
that would be the biggest
all you
bulk
need,
of your budget. Would be that the very last 15 minutes. We'll say about the movie.
Yeah, and I mean Flanagan was talking about the script, and he's like, it's been so fun to write something like really bleak and effed up.
Yeah, well, it was a great book.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's pretty good, Fuego.
Yeah, a little over an
Go
hour,
ahead
guys.
and close her out.
Yes,
Hell
indeed.
yeah.
So I've been Jaime and Fuego on all social media sectors, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all that BS. Most recently I've been covering The Mandalorian, which has been a lot of fun, and
Finally got caught up on that and everything.
No, it's so good. That is your sector for
This
the
thing right
non-scare
here,
epic
it's
stuff.
fucking adorable.
The child.
It's fucking
why,
adorable.
yeah, that's why I mentioned it. And there's also coverage coming from the Phoenix Film Festival, which is why this silly thing is sitting on my
We'll
neck,
be
yeah.
doing a review roundup for the Phoenix Film Festival here instead of like 20 different reviews.
It was
usual.
Yeah, it was unfortunately kind of a Harper experience to a degree. I can't say I watched anything that blew me away
Me either.
at the festival. The non-horror stuff will be on my channel, and yes, like, share, subscribe here, and hashtag Hail to Stephen King. Check out the Facebook group, all that jazz. But I have to obviously extend sincerest thanks to my dude here, Cecil Laird, for making sure that we got this last piece of the puzzle together for the tier ranking.
There's still a lot more
yeah.
tier list rankings we can do. We still can do the movie tier list ranking, the TV series tier list ranking. So there's still more King tier list rankings that we can do in the future. We'll just probably take a little break.
Well, you're about to be a daddy, sir.
So, but we'll get back to this stuff soon. So yeah, thanks guys.
Yeah, absolutely, and look forward to seeing you first Saturday of December for Bazaar of Bad Dreams. I'm already thinking into January. So yes, thanks so much, everybody, and until the Wheel of Call comes around once more, hasta luego, cinemigos, constant readers, viewers alike, say thank you. Hopefully we share more of this palaver sooner rather than later, and until then, stay scared and read some Steve